if we take an example of the supergrid, excuse me, and look at how it will be built, it is of course by having a number of generating stations in the sea, and these could also be ocean currents or wave stations of any sort. So these are only offshore wind turbines, because I think they were the only graphics we had. If we look at wind farms, they will be built and they will be connected by what you call spur connections into the various different countries that put them in place. But what we need to do is we need to start thinking in this thing of bringing the connection across from one electrical system to another. And we need to connect them in the sea as well, so that you can use the ability of bringing power not only down through the onshore grids to systems or to places where it's quite often congested, but you can actually use the spare capacity by having a line in the sea, and you can bring the power around, and you can connect to Norway, as I said, with which is a huge big resource there in terms of hydropower. And then you have a supergrid solution. So it sounds simple, it is complicated, and it is because it is both an engineering challenge for us, but it's also a political challenge. Because of course the people who control the grids in all these different areas are very protective of their market situation. So we have looked a little bit on what this would cost, and I know I'm probably going to lose a lot of people now by putting up numbers at this late time. But just to say that if we looked at a kind of a model where we assume that we have one super regulator, I know that's a word as well that most people wouldn't necessarily like to hear, but somebody who controls the supergrid and knows how to dispatch power, knows how to set the grid codes and the systems around this. If we assume that we have somebody operating it as well, and we look at somebody looking at the 10% return from this over a 25-year life, with 21 gigawatt of offshore wind connected in stages into this system, then we can actually calculate how much would this cost in the transmission use of system charges, it's called, to actually use the system. So when we did that calculation and put in numbers and put in relevant financing solutions, it's €35 per megawatt hour, or 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So this is not an excessive number. This is something that is actually quite possible to do. So it's just to give you the idea that this is not just fiction. This is something that can be done with current technology. But what you need is political leadership and political vision to put this in place. Because as we know, there are big challenges ahead in terms of trying to work with the incumbent utilities here and putting in the system in place to facilitate them to kind of avail of this and benefit from this as well, because of course we can't take everything away from them at the same time. And this is only, if wind pays for this system, then that would be the price. If others can buy capacity and get in on the system, that price would be even lower. So as I said, the main thing is really to get this supergrid thinking integrated into European policy. And Christopher Jones, who is one of the key people in the Commission on Energy, has in fact adopted a lot of these ideas in his policy and in the policies that we see from the European Commission. So that's a very positive step. But it needs to filter into the membership countries. It needs to filter out to all the various system operators as well, that this needs to be done. We need to have a regulatory framework for the free trading of electricity on these lines and on how it would be regulated in terms of pricing and so on. One thing we've done to push this whole thing forward is we've set up this thing we call the Friends of the Supergrid initiative. And we have a number of the heads of the different utilities in continental Europe currently there. We've also got some Irish participation with Minister Ryan and others who've signed up to being part of this network. So it is about spreading the message and continuing in the right direction. And hopefully we'll see the benefits of this. And as I said, offshore wind is really the big generator of power here in this system. It's not, you know, I'm not trying to talk down wave or tidal, but we do have to realize that wave and tidal energy will not give us the generation that Europe really needs to be self-sufficient with energy. So, back to Ireland again. Of course, in this graphic here, we have very much shown the connections that are possible. We did a lot of work on this for many years and looking at the interconnection opportunities. But the main thing that we have seen a lack of is really the lack of supporting some of the generating methods that could go on a system like this, like the offshore wind. And Pamela mentioned Arklow Bank. At the time when Arklow Bank was consented, Ireland was very much in a leading position to move it forward. But unfortunately, there was never a joined-up kind of thinking that was put in place in terms of seeing, like, okay, we've given the consent and the permits, now we need to find some sort of support system that can take that project forward. It didn't happen. Therefore, Ireland is lagged a little bit behind on the activities within offshore wind, unfortunately. And I'm probably going to get shot later on for saying all these things. But anyway, excuse me, I am Danish, so it's all right. It's true. But the main thing that we need to look at in terms of course, Ireland as such is that we have huge resources onshore, and it will easily be possible to put 6,000 or 7,000 megawatts onshore in Ireland. And there are many, many remote areas where you can do that. But we can also put an awful lot of megawatts in the sea, and both on the East Coast and the West Coast opens up with technology, as Pamela highlighted before. So we do have huge opportunity, not only of powering up Ireland, but also having it interconnected in such a way that Ireland can actually make money on this and can be, in a way, the battery of the other islands and the other continents that are around here, instead of just having this focus that we just need to barely have enough to supply ourselves. Let's not forget that it must be around 60% that's coming from gas at the moment, with only one pipeline coming in from Scotland. So it is kind of a scary thing to think about. But what I've said here is that we have seen lack of political leadership, and we've really seen lack of vision in terms of doing something, where, as I said, in Denmark, they had a vision that they could see that the oil and gas in the North Sea in Denmark is running out, and Danish oil and natural gas are slowly running out of revenue, so they still have some revenues coming in, but it is really falling off now, and they've gone aggressively into offshore wind for that reason. So we need to see that sort of vision and leadership coming forward from the government. I mentioned Now Ireland here, and I can see Grattan, you're here as well. In terms of Now Ireland, the National Offshore Wind Association did a cost-benefit analysis, and it's very interesting to look at that as well. There are lots and lots of studies like this all over Europe and all over the world, where you can see the benefits of offshore wind interconnected in. In a cost-benefit analysis, it will bring out more benefits than costs, but it's just a matter of putting the right mechanisms in place. And of course, just the last point I just want to make there is that interconnection technology that will be installed has to be future-proofed in a way that we can't use the old technology of just spur connections to say, offshore wind farms, or interconnectors being built across the Wales, not being able to be interconnected with other generating stations over the years. It'll be a waste of an opportunity if we don't future-proof the solutions we're putting out there now. So, just in conclusion, you know, I've already mentioned this, but Ireland and Europe really needs to deliver very safe and secure power for our customers, and that's really, and all the end consumers, that is the thing we want to keep the lights on. We haven't seen the lights go out yet, but it could very easily happen if we don't start changing our way of generating power and transporting it around. And of course, reducing the fossil fuel dependence in the same way. Offshore wind is going to be a key to this, and there's no doubt about that. We do need to develop all technologies, so it has to be an all renewables play that will basically design the future. But there's no doubt that offshore wind is going to be a huge big challenge here. And then, of course, we need to really focus on interconnection and make sure that we have joined up thinking. We're not just talking about renewable energy, we're talking about renewable energy interconnected into Europe and further away. So that ends my short presentation.